Well, in this video I'm going to sanitize my water tanks, both the onboard water tank on the motorhome and the Aquaroll that we use to fill up the tanks when we're on a campsite. And I'm going to use this stuff here, and it's called Purisol, and it gives you some instructions of how much to use. So the instructions say for water tanks and containers use 30 millilitres per 25 litres. So we're going to measure this out. So we've got a 40 litre tank, divide that by 25 litres and multiply it by 30 millilitres and gives us 48 millilitres. So we're going to put 48 millilitres of solution into the tank and fill it up. So it says fill the tank with fresh water, pump through to the taps, close taps, leave to soak for 2 to 12 hours. We're going to leave the Aquaroll overnight to soak, and then we'll do the tank the following day. And then rinse with fresh mains water and pump out through the taps, and you can treat it with Aquasol for lasting freshness. Let's go and fill the tank up and put the solution in. So just under the 50mm mark. Let's pour that in. Got my Colapz water trunk. I'll put that in there. Put that in there. And let it fill up. That seems to be about it. There we are. Right, just going to leave that for, overnight, at least 12 hours, and then we'll rinse it out in the morning. So I'm just going to give this a little soak in some solution, and it only needs a tiny bit of the solution. It says about 3.6 millilitres of solution. Kind of tiny little bit. I'll leave that to soak for a few hours, probably about 3 hours. Think about a capful. I'm not really sure how big this is, but it's quite a big bucket. Right, I couldn't really think how else to do this, but I need to sterilise the external pump and the hose at the same time, so I'm just going to pump some water into the hose. Right, to make sure it's coming through, I've just put a garden hose on it. I can switch that off as well. So I'm hoping that will leave some water in the hose. Right, so I'm just going to leave my external pump lead in a solution for a couple of hours, possibly overnight. Trying to keep the electrical connections out of the water as well, obviously. And I'm going to see if I can leave the hose for a little while, for a couple of hours. You're probably asking, why didn't I pump the solution through into the tank? Well, I didn't want to leave any water in the tank overnight because it's getting quite cold out there. It's going to be 1 degree tonight, so I didn't want to leave it overnight. I think the temperature is warming up a little bit tomorrow, so I will do the water tank, the fresh water tank, in the morning. Someone reversing, so I'll catch up with you a little bit later. Right, so rinsed off the the trunk. Just rinse this off and just rinse the outside off. I'll run it through with some water. Right, I'll just take that outside, take the bucket outside, and I'll run this through with some fresh water from my bucket, which I've just rinsed out. Right, just rinse through the flat hose now. The Aquaroll's had a good soak overnight, so just going to let the water out down the drain here. That's it. So just going to rinse it out now, empty it out, and we should be ready to go. Giving the outside a bit of a clean with the all-purpose cleaner. Let's do the freshwater tank now. So it's the same formula we had before. It's 30 millilitres per 25 litres. We've got a 90 litre freshwater tank. So 30, oops, hang on, clear. So 90 divided by 25, how many times 25 goes into 90? 3.6 times 30 millilitres is 108 millilitres we're going to put in the freshwater tank. So let's do that, but first let's make sure all the drain taps are closed. I don't want the solution running out. Yeah, make sure that tap's closed as well. So that tap's closed, that tap's closed, and that tap's closed. The tank is actually empty at the moment. We've had it empty because it's a bit cold in here, so I'm just going to fill it up with the solution. Oh, well, I'm going to put some solution in there and I'm going to fill it up with fresh water. Now, as you come in, our fresh water access is under this flap here. So, pull that up. And there we are. So there's quite a bit of solution. You don't want to be measuring out with a cap. About 100 millilitres. Just over 100 millilitres. Put that in there. Careful not to knock the bottle over. Put the cap back on. Put the lid round the right way. Right, I'm just going to fill up the tank until this thing says it's full and it starts to overflow. I need it up to the top of the tank as much as possible. Make sure that all the bits of the tank get filled. And I will need to prime the system as if I was filling it with water, so we'll do that as well. We'll show you that once it's filled up. Right, that's 100%. I'm just going to turn the tap off now. Yeah, because it's overflowing. So let's prime the tank. So first of all, I want to fill the boiler. So put the tap to the hot position and put it on. You will need the pump on. And that should start drawing water up from the boiler and into the hot tank. And through the tap, so it will do a bit of spitting and splattering. And we'll draw the cold water through first. Switch that on. And that's started to come through already, so that's good. Do the same in the washroom. Wait till you get a steady flow of water. There we go. Same in the shower. That's it. I'm starting at this tap here because this is the highest tap, so air always rises to the top, so this is the one that you want to work on. So there we go, getting some of the water through now. There we go, you can see the solution because it's a little bit coloured. So that's it, we've got water in the cold tap, we've got the solution coming through. Same in here, into the hot. And sit onto the hot. So now I know I've got the solution run through the pipes, into the boiler, into the cold and into the hot system. So we're going to leave that for a few hours. You can leave it overnight. This is early morning, so I'm going to leave this during the day, and round about 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, I'm going to empty it out and I'm going to rinse it through, much like I did with the Aquaroll. And just before I do that, I'm just going to top up the tank back to 100%. Just switch the tap on and top it up. Now, the reason it went down is obviously the boiler takes about 9 litres. So once the pump's going and you've got the hot tap open, it draws water into there. There we are. It should be overflowing in a minute, so by the time I get round to the tap, we should be able to switch it off. Well, the other thing about Purisol as opposed to Puriclean is that this stuff only needs one rinse out, and rinse it out and then fill with fresh water, whereas the Puriclean, I think you need to rinse it out about 2 or 3 times because the granules are still in the tank, I've found. So I much prefer the Purisol over Puriclean. Right, so a little bit later in the day, we're going to drain out the water, and I think the instructions on the Purisol say to run the taps, to run it through the system. So let's do that. So pump on. Washing bowl out of the way. Well, let's run all the taps until we run out. There's a bit of a test to see how long the water lasts with all the taps running, really. This wastewater indicator is hopeless. It either says empty or full. There's a little bit of wastewater in there, but it's certainly not 100%, but we will empty the waste as well. So we'll get that emptying. Yeah, there we go. Coming out of there as well now. Must clear these drains out. It's been about 3 minutes now and it's 25%. And wastewater's 25%, but it's still emptying. What's that? That's about 12 minutes now, and the wastewater automatically closes after about 10 minutes. So we'll start that again. We're getting there. It's empty. It says empty on fresh. That's still going. I found it quicker just to run either that tap or that tap. But I suppose at least running the taps actually gives the pipes and the shower head a really good clean for doing that. Right, it's starting to struggle now. Yeah, quite definitely empty now. Yeah, that's it. I'll now go and fill the tank up with fresh water now, and we'll run some of that through as well. Yeah, so we're 100% full of fresh water, fresh clean mains water now. So we'll run some of that through and then we're nearly done. Pump back on. And the same sort of thing as we did before. We'll get the system primed. And into the cold. We'll run some of that through, so that should be fresh water coming through now. Get the hot water coming through first. And then the cold water. There we go. Put it into the middle. I think you've got the idea by now. Hot first. And then cold. And then both. Yeah, so I think I'll let that get down to about 50% and then we'll empty the water just by draining the tank and emptying the boiler. Well, there we go, 50%. I'm going to empty the fresh water now. Let that empty. We'll empty the waste as well. I've got both of them flashing now. And we don't need the pump on anymore. And we'll empty the boiler. I'll throw this yellow handle up. I'll leave the taps in the middle position. Yeah, so that's all the fresh water draining out now. I hope you found that useful. The only thing I've got left to do is to sanitize my shorter water hose. I'll spare you that details, but I'm just going to run the pump into the hose with the bucket like I did earlier. But I'll do that tomorrow because it's getting a bit late. It's about 5 o'clock now and it's getting a bit dark, so I can't film anything outside. The fresh water and the wastewater are just draining away now, and it is about 3 degrees outside, so it's pretty cold and I don't want to leave any water in the tank overnight. So if you found this useful, give us a thumbs up, remember to subscribe, and if you haven't already, please consider hitting the notifications bell because that helps you get notified when I release another video. So we'll catch up with you soon. Bye then.